Welcome to our continuing series of virtual voices hosted by World Information Transfer and focusing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Our speaker today is Martin Cordsmeier. He is the founder of Millionways, a New York City-based company presenting the world's first scientific psychological AI. He's been working on technology to truly understand people as a speaker, host, consultant, and book author. By the age of 19, he co founded a German company dedicated to providing legitimate work from home opportunities for marginalized communities. In 2013, he founded the Million Ways Research Foundation with a $5 million budget, collaborating with scientists to create a scalable self understanding platform. Building upon this research, he and his half brother Max developed a globally unique AI technology that understands human personality traits, emotions, motivations, and hidden patterns and talents. They moved Million Ways to the US in 2022 to scale this unique technology globally, initially utilized for the mental health and human resource space. Over to you, Mr. Cordmeyer.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and I'm really glad to be here and invited to talk. So yeah, you made the great introduction. We are working in AI today, but that was not our origin. Since last year, everybody in the world talks about AI, but that's a very different thing. So most people these days talk about generative AI. We all know that creates things like texts and images and videos and whatever you need, but it doesn't understand things. So generative AI is only for generating things. And the idea here is to have a scientific AI which understands something. And in our case, it's human personality and emotions. And the origin of that, and my headline is usually that mental health, like the whole mental health starts with understanding yourself, because we don't learn that. We don't learn that in school, and often not in life, to really listen to who we are and what our true talents are, what our hidden patterns are, why we have certain emotions. And all of that is very hard to figure out, because I mean, you can do a therapy once you have mental health issues, but what's before? Where does it start? And that's where we come in. So I'm not a scientist. I spent my whole life working on this topic since I was a teenager, so 20 years now. And I was one of these people that didn't understand themselves. I'm maybe still. So this is why I built that initially, because I learned through hundreds of conversations with different people that most people struggle with figuring out who they really are and who they want to be in their lives. Initially, I thought I'm the only one. So when I was a teenager, I learned that I was adopted as a child from day one. So later I learned that this often leads to feeling misunderstood. I didn't know that when I was a child, obviously. For me, it was normal. But later I learned that this is a usual phenomenon that many people struggle with, that who were adopted. And then I got fascinated by biographies. So I really love to talk to people about their lives, how they lead their lives, how they understand themselves, and what they are struggling with. And this was really from homeless to billionaires, very, very different people. Just out of interest, I was just fascinated by that, because thought I can learn something by talking to all of these people. And based on this, and this is very interesting because it wasn't really planned, but based on all these conversations, I learned that almost everyone is struggling with exactly the same thing. So I started a nonprofit for that. A nonprofit because I thought it's important to have something sustainable, which can't lose the values. And it was only for building a tool. It wasn't an AI back then. I just wanted to build a tool that helps people understand themselves. And that was the beginning of Millionways. So we started a nonprofit in Germany. We interviewed, in that case, thousands of people. So we went from hundreds to thousands, 7,000 to be accurate, in schools, universities, big companies, homeless shelters on the streets. So very, very different people. And always with the same goal. We did a 1-hour conversation about them, and reading, and with empathy, we tried to figure out what they really need. And once we figured that out, we tried to match them with other people to reach their goals. So for example, we had one little guy, he was 8 years old in a school in Berlin. And he told us he wants to build sailboats in his life. So his dream was to build sailboats. And he was 8, so he couldn't build sailboats yet, maybe, but he knew that he wants to do it. And that was a very bad environment. The school was, yeah, in a not very good area. And both of his brothers were actually drug dealers. So really this almost stereotype story. And he would most likely, unfortunately, also become something like in this direction. And we talked to him, and we connected him to a former shipyard employee. He was 70 years old, and he worked in a shipyard and building sailboats all his life. And only this one encounter changed the life of this boy, because later, 7 years later, he actually worked in this shipyard. And this is one of my favorite stories. That's why I always love to tell it, because it shows that if you listen to somebody, if you then understand what the person really says, and the person itself, in this case, an 8-year-old, also understands it, and then you do something, some little tiny thing to help this person, in this case, just connecting him to one other person, it can change lives. And this was so fascinating that we thought, okay, we did that 7,000 times manually. So it was a big work. We talked 1 hour, we matched them manually. So it was a lot of manual work. And we thought, how can we make that scalable? And then it was interesting. We had a scientist on our team. He was a psychometric, meaning he developed tests to figure out personality all his life. But all these tests were still not scalable. So you still had to do multiple choice questions, or you do some optical illusions, how you interact with them. So very different methods, but none of them were really scalable, because you still had to do them. And together with him, David, he is still on our team. He is our head of science today. We started developing something that you call AI these days. It wasn't really an AI back then, but we didn't know that we are building an AI. But we had all this data from 7,000 people. And we knew that building an AI based on that could make it scalable. So we tried to figure out a way to not need all these tests anymore, no multiple choice, no optical illusions or whatever, just text. So the idea was, if we can find a method to figure out all these things about the person, the personality, the emotions, the motivation, where this person currently is emotionally, based on text, that would make it scalable. And that's what we did. So we actually developed the first AI that is able to do that. I can show you in a few minutes how it looks like today. But it was a long process. So we really needed to automate these 2 steps that we previously did manually, talking to people, reading between the lines, and giving them insights into their personality, and then match them to the right thing, another person, a job, whatever they need. We needed to automate that, and we did that. So this was the origin, and that's why it's pretty special these days. Other AI companies, especially in the Valley, are started or founded for usually a different reason. They usually want to make money, which is fine. We didn't start like that. We had a very different origin. We really only wanted to help people. And I guess this origin makes a difference. So in 2019, I guess, I'm bad with years, but my we had a big setback, and my co-founder died. He was also my best friend. He died from out of nowhere, and it was a big setback, personally and professionally. And I reconnected with my half brother Max after that, who I didn't know since I was since I was 21. So I only knew him since I was 21. He was 11. So we only met 11 years after he was born, because I was adopted. He was not adopted. He grew up with his mother. So it was a very specific story. I don't want to dig deeper into that, but just so you know, we didn't know each other. We then reconnected, and he joined the company. He had a mathematical background, technical background. So we were able to build the technical part of this AI. The scientific part was done with our professor. Now we needed the tech part, and we did that. We then moved to the US 2 years ago, and starting to build products based on that. And those products can be in many different fields. You can imagine, once you understand a person and their subconscious patterns and traits and emotions, you can do many things with it. You can match the right jobs in HR. You can do dating, obviously, but you can also do mental health, and that was the origin. That's what we wanted to do. So I can show you how it looks like. Just to let you know how it works, we just need text. As I said, the most important thing is we just need text. So if we would record this meeting on this event, and it is recorded, you could already create a personality profile of me, because I'm the only one talking right now, and everyone will talk. And then after that, you get the result, and the result looks like this. I don't want to talk too much about that because it would take too long, but I just want to give you the headlines so you know what we can analyze based on your text. If you write it or if you talk, it doesn't matter. It can be written or voice text, but you always get the same results. And the most important for me, and I want to keep this relatively short, but you can ask later if you want to, the very fascinating part is the motives. This is the source of your strength, and motive is either power, contact, or achievement. And that means a power motivated person has a very different core motivation than a contact motivated person. So if you are very motivated by power, you have a very strong urge to change something, to influence people, to make a difference in the world or for yourself or for your company. Usually founders have this motivation. Then contact, great networkers, salespeople, artists, all of these people definitely need a contact motive, because you have to be able to build relationships. And the third one is achievement. This is outperforming yourself, competitive athletes, for example, but also coders. Just to give 2 examples, we don't categorize, but this is just examples. You always need a great achievement motive. If you understand that, you already know why you may be unhappy in your life. Because if a power motivated person who works in a job which is very achievement focused, for example, sales or outperforming others and all these things, it will not make you happy, because you are motivated by making a difference. Just an example. Or if you are alone in your office and you have a very high contact motive, it obviously also wouldn't work. So this is already very important. And so far, it's not possible to figure that out in a scalable way. You can only do that by self-reflection, or if you have a good therapist or great friends, maybe you are lucky and figure that out yourself, but this is very hard for people to understand what truly motivates them. Then the second part is the emotions. And in science, it's called approach and avoidance. We don't really like these 2 words, but that's what it's formally called. We may change these words, but it doesn't mean positive or negative. It means more if you are currently open for change, if you want to question things, or if you are very, if you believe naturally, like with your gut. It's just about that, like how open or how critical are you right now, especially towards new things. Then the preferences, this is what most of you probably know about. If you did any other test like the MBTI, Myers-Briggs, you usually learn but you probably already knew that if you are introvert or extrovert, if you like need realization or like doing something or planning something, like theory versus practical, holistically versus detail, and goal versus path. These are very important personality traits, but it doesn't help you if you just do an MBTI test by answering 16 questions, because you give the answers and then you get the result that reflects your self picture. So it doesn't really help you because you give the answers yourself. What really helps you is if you have an implicit analysis, and this is very implicit because you just talk and then you get the result. So you can't really manipulate it, and then you can learn that you are maybe 60% introvert or 90% introvert, which obviously makes a difference. So it's not just categorizing I and E, it's much more than that. You can really learn how internally oriented you are. And you also learn what it is, because many people don't understand what introversion and extroversion is. They think if they are loud and they are talking very much, they are extrovert, but that's not the case. It's much more complex. We can also talk about that. And then the levels, this is actually how happy or satisfied you currently are with your life situation. And that is from 1, like being very inspired in a flow state, to 5, which is basically being stuck and passive. You don't know what you should do next. 3 is actually very interesting because it's adaptable. So you are open for change, which is sometimes it looks sad from the outside because these are often people that maybe lost their job or something happened. And the good part of it is you're open for change now. Many things are possible if you already have or decided about everything in your life. Not everything is possible, obviously, but in this situation, everything is possible. So this is very good if you do it in HR to figure out if somebody really wants to have a new job or a new situation, or is open for change to do something new. These are the 5 dimensions. We only have a few minutes left, so I will keep this short. For the HR part, you can just see an example here, how it's used in reality. In HR, you need, in addition to your team, you need to figure out how your team currently looks like. This is the same profile that you just saw, but about a team. So this is like the average of your team is very power motivated, very low contact. So you probably need somebody with a contact motive. This is balanced, so that's okay. And then you can see what are you lacking? What do you need? And then you can match the right person based on that. You see the scores here. Again, not too much details, but the high level is we know what levels have to be similar to your team and what levels should be complementary. And then we can match people accordingly. So this is how it looks in reality. We also have a chatbot, so you can always use it at millionways.ai. This is like ChatGPT, but with emotional intelligence. So you can talk about yourself. You can learn, am I potentially a good entrepreneur? And then it will answer specifically with knowing your personality traits. So again, not too much details, but just if you read it high level, you see that it understands your emotional and creative nature. And then you can talk and answer again. And you have a dialogue which includes emotional intelligence. Nobody else currently has that. Many people claim that. There are a lot of startups saying we have emotional intelligent AI, but usually, honestly, there's not a lot behind that. The only thing they usually do is sentiment analysis, which means tagging words. This is a sad word. This is a nice word. This is a positive word. And then they think that this is emotional intelligence, but they don't understand the personality. And that leads me back, and then it's the last minute here. I want to be on time. This is a German stereotype. So from my perspective, this is very connected to the American dream. That's also the reason why we moved here, because if you know if you have the chance to become what you want to be, then you also need to learn how to get there. And this starts with understanding yourself. And if you understand yourself and then achieve your goals, you are probably much more happier and much more satisfied in your life, which then reduces the mental health issues. And with that, I can close it for now. But I just want to emphasize how much I love to build this and truly help people with that, because I needed it myself when I was a teenager. And I know that many, many others also need something like that. And we have a good intention. So I hope this or something like this will eventually change the world, because if you change a lot of individual worlds, you eventually change the big one. And that's what we are working on. So thanks again for listening, and thanks for having me.
Well, thank you very, very much for very innovative new technology. It definitely should help many people that are in the profession of helping people, but also it should help people understand themselves better and how they approach various different situations, whether it's personal, work related, or any other endeavor that I have. And now we will get over to our moderator, Susie Halleck. Over to you, Susie.
Thank you, Dr. Durbach, and thanks, Martin, for such an interesting presentation and very relevant topic. We have lots of questions from the audience, so without further ado, what are the potential risks of misinformation provided by psychological AI, particularly in terms of sensitive areas such as mental health and HR?
Yeah, this is the most important question when we started building that, because our foundation was science. Usually the foundation is building a business model. So that was already different. If you just want to build a business model, you would probably have a very simple analysis, like the sentiment analysis that I just mentioned. And then you get all these misinterpretations and black box analysis, and nobody knows what's going on. All these other AIs these days, and I say all, I mean the generative AIs, are black boxes. You don't understand what's going on. This is why ChatGPT doesn't even understand why it sometimes gives wrong answers, because it's a black box. So we are based on a scientific theory, which was around since decades. It was started being researched in the 80s. And it's very validated globally, researched in different countries, even in Stanford, a lot of white papers on it. So very profound personality theory. And this personality theory actually describes human personality as something dynamic. We didn't pick up on that, but it's very important. Personality changes. It's not always the same. You can be introvert the one day and extrovert the other day. Everybody knows that, but nobody understands what that means because it's not static. And this is something that the theory is able to do. And then we needed to digitalize this theory because it's a very complex theory, a lot of white papers, so nobody can work with that. You need very high-trained psychologists to use it, and it takes weeks. So what we did is having 20 psychologists, and I don't want to talk too much, but 20 psychologists on our team tagging every single word of every single transcript. 20 reduces the subjectivity, so it's not subjective anymore because you have 20, and they are all trained on this theory. That's what we did in the research phase. And then based on that, we even predicted the future. Like we tried to make assumptions about what this person will probably do next. And if that was true, it was accurate, and if not, not. So we are actually able to prove our accuracy. And this is very important. So you're totally right. If you build an emotional AI, and this is what many others do right now, on some random data set that some tech guy tagged, and nothing against tech, we are also tech guys, but this is not scientific. This is dangerous because you can really do wrong assumptions, and then it can go in a totally different, dangerous way. So
how do you build trust in these areas, and specifically in your company? How do you maintain transparency and earn the trust of users?
So the main part is that it's explainable. So trust usually starts developing when you can explain what we are claiming. The others can't do that because, for example, how should ChatGPT explain that it's accurate. It doesn't make sense because it just generates words. So it's not, so the facts can be wrong maybe, but it's not per se accurate or not accurate. This AI is accurate, 85%, which is more than a highly trained psychologist, and we can prove it because we can always explain how we got to a certain evaluation. This is the first part, and the second part is it's completely anonymous. So we are not like Microsoft Meta or something like that. And not that they are bad, but they have a different business model, obviously. They need data. We don't need data because we have the science. So we don't need to have 500 million data sets to retrain the AI. It is already trained because it learned the psychological theory. And this also leads to trust because we know that we don't even need it. We don't need to know who you are. You can, if you sign up today, you can use a fake email address and nobody cares. We don't even need your name. We need nothing. So you can use a VPN, a fake email address, and we don't know who you are. So we don't care about that.
The next question is related to equality. So on the one hand, access to AI and technologies increases access across the world to different job opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have had before. But on the other, we had another speaker speak about AI, and they mentioned that there could really be a sense of inequality if people aren't trained appropriately or don't have access to learnings and understand how to leverage the technology. So how do you think we can establish like a fair and equitable system in this new world with AI?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. And we thought about that so much you can't imagine. It's because bias is always dangerous if you work with data because there is no data set that is not biased. Also, ours is not completely unbiased. If you would claim that, it would be a lie because there is no unbiased data in the world. It just doesn't work. But it's as unbiased as possible for us because first we interviewed totally diverse people from different countries, different age groups, all of these. So it was very, very, very diverse. And the most important answer on that, and this is, I just quote our head of science, he always says that the fundamental human traits are universal. So for example, if you are sad, the emotion sadness itself is the same all over the world, in China, in Ukraine, in Europe, in America. It doesn't matter where. You always have the same basic feeling. And this is something that this personality theory describes. So we can see if you are more externally motivated, so extrovert, or if you are very detail-oriented. There is detail-oriented people on all continents, obviously. The detail orientation itself is the same. And this is probably the most important. We don't care about age, gender, ethnicity, all of these things. It's just completely irrelevant for this AI. It only describes who you truly are. And this, I always get goosebumps when I say that because it's so beautiful. Because if you imagine that this is possible to scale it globally, you would really eliminate this. And I don't want to, it's a utopia, yeah? And it's not 100%, but the idea leads to that, because if you really only care about who you truly are on your inside, then the rest doesn't matter anymore.
The next question is related to education. So in universities and schools, when tools like ChatGPT became available, they didn't really know how to regulate or control the way in which students were leveraging this technology to write their papers, do their assignments. And kind of now the learning is evolving. How do we learn to leverage these technologies to resolve problems rather than memorizing? So how do you think education is evolving, and how do you think universities can sort of even the playing field and make sure that students aren't just leveraging the tools not to think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a different question about generative AI more, right? Because the problem is definitely there. And I also don't have the ultimate answer how to solve that because we are not in generative AI. But it is a fact. We have to deal with the fact that you don't know who wrote something anymore. It's impossible. And even like these identification tools, is this text written by ChatGPT? They also don't work. I mean, they will not work long term. How should it? It's not possible. We generate words and GPT generates words. So you can't differentiate that in the future. So we have to deal with that. Same with the news. We all know that, especially these days, you just already don't know anymore if even a video is true or not. You can't be sure anymore. So this is just a fact. And again, the answer would be to look what's behind that, because this is different. And we actually tested a little bit to see if we are able to identify if something is written by you because of your personality. And that's actually possible. Maybe you heard about Karen AI. That's the virtual girlfriend that was very public last year. It was a real person, and she made a digital version of herself, and then it was a girlfriend app. And the digital version of her and her real interviews were a completely different personality. So we were actually able to show that it's a very different person. Like, it's not really a person, but we were able to compare that. So it may be possible to solve a couple of these things by also using the AI, but I don't want to claim that our AI solves all problems. That's not the case. But we probably in education, it's very important also to understand who you truly are, and then you, both sides, like the education institution, and you could learn something from that.
What challenges did you face on your journey to creating Millionways, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, yes. That would take, and I guess, yeah, that would take a lot of hours now, but it was a lot of challenges. So we are so much all in. I didn't have money in my whole life. I invested everything that we ever earned, only debts, and then all already setbacks. I had an emotional or mental health issue myself. At some point, it almost killed me, and it ultimately, and sounds very brutal now, but my best friend died from something similar. So we all know that mental health can kill, and this is not an easy topic. But so it was really big challenges, and on all these setbacks. I don't want to sound like I'm heroic or something. I just knew that I found this idea for my life. And I know that the idea is right, even though if the execution may be wrong, because I also made a lot of mistakes in my journey. So the execution was maybe not always right, but the idea of helping people understand themselves better and then change their lives, I mean, that can't be wrong. This is just impossible. So I always knew that I have to do that no matter what, as long as I live. Maybe sounds a little dramatic now, but this is really what it was, because otherwise I could easily have a much easier life. I'm pretty sure about that.
Thank you for sharing. And what plans and projects do you have for the next few years, or kind of areas of focus for Millionways?
Yeah, so the best case for us is if we find the right vehicle to merge into, because you can imagine with AI these days, you can get a lot of money. We also got offers. Because people want this technology, but then it would just be it would be used for HR from some huge companies, or it would be integrated in your iPhone. Yeah, you could do that, but the better case is if we find the right vehicle to build something only about what I just talked about, like the mental health part, and then bring it to the world with the right people. And we know that there are a lot of influential people being interested in that. Even celebrities. So if we find the right channels shortly, because otherwise someday somebody will also develop something like that. But right now we are the only ones. I guess we have a chance to build something very impactful, and that's my biggest wish for this year. So otherwise we will just get money for this, and then we can build a non-profit again. But honestly, it's not the best case.
Thank you for sharing. And this question's a bit deeper. So what do you think is the most important in the process of self-discovery and sort of finding your way?
Yeah, I asked the question myself all my life, and it's also when you read those books about you have to listen to your inner voice, and you have to, and then you learn something on the next TikTok video, and then you do that, and then you still didn't figure it out. So it's really about meeting the right people from my perspective. First, understanding who you truly are and what you really need, and not the self-perception that usually is not even based on self-perception. It's usually based on other people's opinions. Your parents tell you who you are, your friends, and the friends, you met your friends also randomly, usually at university or wherever. So, and then you stuck together, and then you mirror yourself who you are. You know what I mean? So it's very hard to truly cut through this noise. From my perspective, you can only do it if you're alone, in your bed at night and right before you sleep. Then you are usually very honest to yourself. And if you would be able to do an interview in this moment with our AI, for example, what you're saying then, it's usually the truth. And then you can, if you figure that out, you can get connected to others. And I think this is the most important, because right now we are connected by superficial factors, especially in dating. Everybody knows that this is like horrible. And still, I guess the very young people right now even don't use the dating platforms anymore because it's so horrible. It's really in decline. So we need to make sure that we have purpose-driven connections. And this is something that there's no platform for that. This is what I wanted to build. I really want a platform for purpose-driven connections. Just imagine you do an interview, you get matches based on what you said, and you don't know if it's a 17-year-old Chinese or if it's a 25-year-old Ukrainian or a 70-year-old German grandmother. You just don't know that, and it doesn't matter because it's only about purpose. That's my utopia.
And how do you collaborate with other organizations and partners to achieve your goals?
Yeah, that's what we are looking for right now. So we tried to figure that out over 1.5 years in the US. And I could also talk about that an hour. Don't worry, I will not do that, but it was not easy. Coming from Germany, we thought, and I had a very, very good network in Germany. I worked with a billionaire, and this billionaire was just somebody I interviewed while I was doing these 100s of interviews. As a person, I didn't even care about that he's a billionaire because I didn't need money. But later I started the foundation with him, and this is something that I was a little spoiled of. Maybe in Germany we knew everybody. Then we moved to the US, and I thought, oh yeah, cool. Now we do the same here, but that didn't really work, to be honest. So at the beginning we didn't meet the right people. Now it's different. Since I guess 6 to 12 months, so it's pretty good. But before that, we wasted a lot of time by meeting the wrong people, which is funny because I just said how important it is to meet the right people. So we also didn't do that. So we actually met a lot of fake and scam people. And but I hope that answers the question. So we are looking for the right institutions. We want to implement into something existing. We don't want to replace something. For example, therapists, that would be horrible. We just want to add something. So if we could work with the big institutions that are currently powerful, and we just add our technology to that, that's the best case. I don't really want to build something new.
Makes sense. And what personal values do you consider most important, and how do they affect your work?
Personal values, yeah. That's a good question. I mean, values, the definition of values is not universal, I guess. For example, is being persistent a value? I'm not sure about that. It could also be idiocracy, because in my life I always thought, like, am I crazy to still do that, or is it just persistence? Because if it works in the end, you read about this person and then it's a hero and everything, and everybody, like Steve Jobs, and then everybody loves your story. But if it doesn't work, nobody knows about you. So, and I don't know how many Steve Jobs are out there who didn't succeed. So I don't know. The values, I love persistence. I also love that I have figured out what I want in my life. This is something that I'm really, really happy about, because if I didn't, I don't know if I would be even here, to be honest, because many people struggle with that. And this is purpose. So I found my purpose by looking for purpose. But this is what I'm very grateful for. So it's not really a value. Otherwise, it's definitely always being reliable and true to your word. But I mean, it sounds a little superficial, but I guess we proved it, hopefully, so far.
What skills and kind of areas of knowledge or studies did you find most useful for you as you progressed in your career?
Yeah, definitely this theory that we are working on. and everything that's around that, because human personality is really well researched. Just still we don't use that research because we still use the MBTI because it's fun. We go on 16personalities.com and then we answer 16 questions and then we have a 4-letter code and we are happy about that, but it doesn't really help us, to be honest, right? I mean, this is not really what we want. So for me, it was fascinating to see that we already understand human personality pretty well, but the masses are not aware of that because there's no tool to use it. And now there are more and more tools because mental health is a big topic right now. Usually also, a lot of people just started it for money again. So not everything of that is really useful, but most of the research is already done. I guess we understand ourselves on a high level pretty well, but we need to make it accessible. So that was the most important for me. And these studies, the theory was based on Professor Kuhl, which is spelled Kuhl, not the English cool. He is a German professor, and he did a lot of ground research in this field since decades. And our head of science, Professor David Scheffer, he is his successor, let's say like that. Professor Kuhl is 80 now, so and we are very happy to have him on our team because this research is, from my perspective, extremely valuable.
Thanks for sharing. And what types of machine learning models and algorithms are employed to detect and respond to human emotions and personality traits? Like, is there a type of data to help train the AI on empathetic responses?
Yeah, we used our own data. About the models, this is actually my brother. I don't want to give wrong answers here. So if tech questions need to go to Max. But the difference between us and most of other AI companies is that we had our own data, and this is because we had the foundation. And AI, I guess probably most of you know that, is the most valuable part of AI is the data, because if you just an algorithm, I don't know if you all know that you can download data sets on the internet for free. There are platforms you can just download a data set of I tagged 5 million conversations or Twitter posts, I still say Twitter, about sadness or happiness. And then this is a data set. So you just tagged it, somebody just tagged it, and then you have a data set. And then you can build an AI with AI. You can even, there are AIs to build AIs based on this data set. That's actually what most people do. So this is, you can build an AI startup in 1 day. This is actually possible. And if you are smart to market it, you can have $1 million valuation in 1 week. So it's crazy these days, but this is not real. So what we have is own data and own research, and the model just translates the text into these dimensions that I just showed you. If it's too technical, it's not a problem, but just in short, it's numbers. The output is numbers. So you don't, the text is just an example. The output is always numbers, and then these numbers can be interpreted by the end user product, for example, the HR platform.
And how do you ensure its quality and just kind of like data quality and checks?
Yeah, that's supervised learning. That's also the difference to other AIs. This is not unsupervised learning like all the LLMs. They have to be unsupervised because nobody can do that supervised with billions of data sets or trillions or whatever it is. I don't know. We don't do that. So it's supervised learning. We reiterate or we do next iterations regularly, usually every 6 months. And we just add the newest research. And also retag maybe some new interviews that we got in the meantime. That's what you have to do. And again, it has to be done by scientists. So it's a supervised learning model based on science, and we have new iterations every 6 months.
And do you see like other similar types of tools and solutions in the market, like developing more empathy in their AI capabilities? Because that was an area that many people thought it wouldn't be able to kind of replicate or replace, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there are even a lot of articles. And if you Google that, in Forbes had like 2 articles over the last 3 weeks, I guess, about exactly that. There are companies like Hume AI claiming something, and if you read deeper, you will see that it's again sentiment analysis, and it's only emotions. So there are a lot of people claiming something, but it's not empathy. For example, how does our empathy work? Yeah, if I listen to you, do I tag your words by, oh, that was a sad word, so she's probably sad? That's not how it works. This is stupid, to be honest, because I mean, this is not how sadness works. Maybe you just talk about somebody who's sad, and then you use those words. So it doesn't make sense. So what you really need to do is having the full picture, the whole picture. And there's actually nobody on the market right now. We are pretty sure people are researching on that because it's obvious. This is the next big step in AI. And we know that a lot of people have ideas about that. But if you Google it, there are a lot of articles, even an initiative, an open source initiative, trying to figure out how to build an emotional intelligent AI. They're trying to figure it out. So we are still very ahead of the market, and that's also why I want to use it for good. But it will not stay like that forever, obviously. So I guess in 1 year we will already see something. But again, we have like 10 years of research, so I guess we have something special, hopefully.
A few audience members are interested in your cooperation with scientists during and collaboration with scientists during creation of the platform. Could you kind of speak to that experience a bit more?
And how we did it, or
Yeah, a few members have just inquired about, like, can you
Yes.
tell us more?
Yeah, so how we did it was I met David pretty early in my life, and we together developed the idea of how to make our foundation, the nonprofit foundation, scalable. So he already developed a couple of tests before. One of them was based on optical illusions. So you interacted with optical illusions online, and then you got a result based on that. That's how it worked. It was also a validated test. And so he's very experienced and renowned in this field. And based on his research and our vision and strategy and stuff, we developed the text analysis tool over years. So today it would be a little easier because now we have AI, so it would probably be faster. But back then it was a really new approach, and that's how we did it. So it was really university research. We had 25 psychologists at that time. They were all students or alumni from David, and they tagged the words, and then the tech people came in and built a model around that. But the combination is very important because if you don't start with science, if you start with a tech, it usually ends up being a black box. It's not possible otherwise. So you need to start with the science. And this is also, if some questions were also about the future, we would definitely love to do much more research together globally, especially in different cultures, because this is where the bias comes in. If I'm in New York right now, so the great thing is you have every culture of the world here, but it's still New York, so it's not really the culture of the world. So it's a microcosmos, but it's not really the same. So we would love to do research on different continents on that, but again, for that we need the right partners. We are just right now we are only a few people because the hard work is done, and we are actually very small right now because we don't need more, and we want to work with existing institutions because they already have the expertise and the power and the knowledge, and we would love to do more research together on how to optimize it, how to how to output more additional dimensions, all of these things. It's a big goal.
Thank you. And what impact have you kind of already seen of your technology in the HR field, or kind of hope to see?
Yeah, hope to see more because we didn't market it. And as I said, we are looking for the right partners to market it. We can't do it ourselves because if you look back at what I showed you, the profile, Max and I as the co-founders are really not salespeople. So definitely not. I love the vision, and I really want to have an impact. So that's what I really want. And Max is very passionate about building things, but not really sales. So that would be too slow. We can't afford to wait because of the shrinking head start. So yeah, that's where we are at. So right now we are not in the market, but we saw the impact in a lot of proof of concept. So what we did last year was working with HR companies, working with one pharmaceutical company, with a university, so with different institutions, pretty renowned institutions, to prove that it works, because that's what we were able to do ourselves. But really in the market, that's the next step, and it has to be huge. So we are really looking for huge partners. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. So the impact in the market we couldn't see, but we can see the impact in every single proof of concept. And also going back to the research phase, I told you about this 8-year-old boy, and this is just this is not a PR story or something. I was personally sitting in front of him, and I saw how this 7 years later led to this drop in this shipyard. So this is not the only story. This is just a very easy to understand story, but there are much more stories behind that. Like, for example, the person that wants to open a restaurant, and we needed to figure out why they wanted to open a restaurant, because they love to cook, or because they love the interior design, or they want to serve people. You see what I mean? Like, it's very different aspects of one wish. And if you figure that out, why you want to do that, maybe you can also do something else with that, which is easier maybe. And we had a lot of these stories. I could tell you 50 or whatever. So the impact is very visible if you use it.
That's amazing. And what advice do you have for people who want to start their own businesses specifically in the fields of technology or AI?
Yeah, I guess it's actually similar to what I just said about the restaurant. First, understand what you really want, because having an own company is just a high-level wish. But why? Do you want to make a difference? Do you want to learn something? Many people are motivated by learning something. Do you want to work with your friends? Then it's very important to do a test like our AI. Maybe you find another one, I don't know, to figure out where you are complementary and what is similar. And then you can do something with it as a team, because this is also very important. You don't only have to understand yourself, you also have to understand people you are working with, and maybe also understand why you have certain conflicts or misunderstandings, and why you feel somebody is a soulmate. So why? Because if you understand the why, then you can do that. And this is, I think, the most important step before you start the company. But after that, I love to just do it, to be honest. I'm not an overthinker, more the opposite, which is also not always good. So I would always try, to be honest, because once you know what you really want, this is the most important, just what you really want, then you can make something with it. And if it's having an impact, just focus on that, really. Because if you try to have an impact in the world, but you do something that only brings you money, that's not going to make you happy. So core motivation is the most important.
And how do you see jobs or roles or skills evolving with AI as we look to the future? Like, what do you think will be the most important areas for students to be learning so that they can continue like adding value to different companies or in society?
Yeah, I guess it will shift actually, right? We all see that, because we all know that AI will replace jobs. This is just a fact, and we can find that bad, but it doesn't matter. It will happen. It's just, especially in the creative jobs. So we have to deal with it. I don't believe in protesting against that, because it will happen anyways. We can't stop that anymore. So I actually wrote a book about, and this is in German only, but because I'm so fascinated by that topic, if we have a society which is very human oriented, and currently we don't have that. We have a society which utilizes humans, and the humans built that society. It's pretty crazy. So we build a society that is not really focused on the human itself. But if AI replaces a lot of jobs that we maybe didn't even want to do, and now I'm not talking about the creative jobs, but like the grind jobs, many people don't really want to do that. So it's okay maybe in the long term that this happens, because then we could focus on what we truly want. And then again, leads back to understanding yourself. And this is a utopia now. and it will be painful also on the way there. But I truly believe in a utopia. I really think we can have a society where we all can do what we truly want. Ultimately, I hope we will all experience. I don't think it will take 100 years. I think it's pretty. We are pretty much there if we do it right. If we don't destroy everything on the way, and we all know that the world is able to do that. If the humans in this world are able to do that. But I also see a lot of good energy, and I really think that in the end, hopefully, we will have a much better society than before. And it's not a dream. I really think it's possible. AI can really help us. For me, it's not really a threat.
Yeah, to your point, like taking over these tasks that we don't necessarily enjoy doing, and so that we could spend our time differently.
Yep.
But I also hear different perspectives. Like some people think that roles that like we're helping fix things, like will be more of focus than kind of these like jobs that we've kind of been looking to work in more so. Like, do you kind of see that shifting?
You mean the type of jobs?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess many people were already purpose-driven before, but they didn't dare to be purpose-driven. And I guess it changes now. And especially if you read about the stereotype Gen Z and Gen Alpha things, I think it's good that many people refuse to do pointless jobs. And many of these can be replaced by AI. And if you want still people working in jobs that not a lot of people want to work in, then you need to pay them better. So there will be a way to figure that out. But I mean, this is a very simplified answer now, but it's also a complex topic. But I really think it will change because we already see that purpose is so important, and purpose doesn't always mean I need to have an important influence in this world. That's not what it always means. It can be, I just want to help the local animal shelter to become, I don't know, simple things. Sometimes it makes you happy to do these things, and then in addition, do something to make money in the meantime. But it's important to focus on what you really want, and then usually a job grows from that. This is what I experienced. If you just start on the right way, things happen. It's crazy. It's hard to trust in that, honestly. I still do it, and I'm 40 now, so it's not easy, but I'm trusting that it leads to something if you start.
Being an entrepreneur is a very busy and time-consuming job. So how do you kind of find balance or stay motivated when you're exhausted and continuing to be productive without burning out?
Oh yeah, I'm not very good at it. I wouldn't take an advice from me, to be honest. I wrote a whole book about that, and I don't follow any of these advices in this book. So I'm not very believable in this case. No, seriously. I'm really good at giving advice for others because from the outside you can always see that. But for myself, I'm really not good at it. I'm not good at living in the moment. I'm always focused on the bigger goal. I'm always thinking like, what is the point in which I think we were successful? And then now I would say that, yeah, if the world changed, but this is very fuzzy. So when did the world change? Maybe I already changed it. I don't even know that. I don't know. So maybe you all did that. Maybe you all already changed the world by some actions and you're not even aware of that. So I think I'm not really good at it, let's say it like that. But I try to at least have good sleep. And this is this stupid, simple advice, but I guess it really helps because the only thing I always did was having enough sleep. That's what I really care about. Maybe it saved me. I don't know.
That's good advice. And then we're up on time. So the last question is whether there are resources on your models or your business publicly available where people can learn more, or can they be tested on personal computers, like any tactical?
Yeah, so it's Millionways in one word, .me. There's also an app on the App Stores or Play Store, just called Millionways. It's free. You can use a fake email address, as I said. So anonymous, you can just try it yourself. You can also use the chatbot on millionways.ai. So if you want to try it, that's very easy. And again, this is not our business model, so it's not even freemium. Like there's just nothing. We don't even have a billing system, so don't worry about that. It's really right now. It's only to try it. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. I'll turn back to Dr. Durbach to close out.
Thank you very much, Susie, for your moderating. You did a great job combining all these questions and listening to the most important facts. I just wanted to ask you, Martin, are all your double-blind investigations listed on your website? And what are the participants that are involved in that?
Yeah, this was the research phase, right? That's what you mean. It was 7,000 participants, and it was always exactly the scientific process that I described. Yeah, we didn't do anything else, and we still do it like that.
Well, then I would like to thank you for a very interesting presentation, and we wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors to help AI understand the human psyche, which people have been trying to understand for millennia. So hopefully you'll be able to define a more specific and clear evaluation of what makes people tick. Have a very good week and take good care of yourself.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Durbach. Thanks, Susie. That was great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.